President Obama will be knocking down some beers with the Cambridge police officer, you know, Sergeant James Crowley, and an old friend, Professor Henry Gates, who doesn't like beer, we understand, but will do it anyway. It'll be tomorrow at the White House about 6 p.m. We're not invited. Is beer summit diplomacy in a bottle or just putting a Band-Aid on a bigger problem? Let's take a look at our political panel today. It's outstanding. Stephen A. Smith is playing the role of Stephen A. Smith, the journalist, former ESPN guy, knows everything. Nina Easton also knows a lot, was on about 10 hours ago. Washington bureau chief for Fortune magazine and Fox News contributor Bernard Whitman, former pollster for President Clinton. First off, Stephen A. Who, in this situation, when the president gets together with these two main players, should they recount what happened and decide that who was wrong and who was right?
I think they should, but I think that the longer this goes on, the worse Professor Gates look.
Why?
Because you were the one, believe it or not, it's a rarity for an African-American to be in the position that he was in. You were the one that was privileged. You are the Harvard, professor. You are the iconic figure within the African-American community. You were the one in your home. The police officer comes there. He's responding to a call initially. Like I said, I didn't believe that he handled the situation at all that well at all. But at the same time, the longer this drags on, you start wondering about spin control. You start wondering about what was this, a publicity stunt or something? I find it really reprehensible the way things have been handled, to be quite honest with you.
By him?
Yes.
But he didn't initiate this beer fest. It was the president.
Yeah,
the president who admitted that he spoke before he had the facts and is trying to walk it back. Right. So I don't see how you can blame Gates. And the other thing is that, Gates overreacted and was abusive in that situation, we now know. But he was also he was arrested in his home. So I think the police officer overreacted.
Well, I said both.
Well.
I did say both. I did say both.
Bernard.
From my perspective, this is precisely why the American people came together and elected Barack Obama. I think that given the environment that we've had around health care and the divisive politics that we've seen over the last 6 months, I think that the opportunity to bring Gates and Crowley together and in a dispassionate setting where people can actually talk to each other and get to know each other person to person. I don't mean to get all psychobabble on you, but we can actually use this to help bring people together.
Stephen A., does America need this?
No, not right now. I don't believe so. I think we needed it initially when it first went down. Again, you can understand his angst, his anger. If you're walking into your home, you know you're obviously not.
Actually, no, I would say thank you, police officer. I heard you thought I was being broken into.
Exactly.
Thanks for doing your job.
Exactly. The fact that this escalated to this point and the president started things off by saying, I don't know all the facts, but still labeling that the officer acted stupidly. You were a provocateur in all of this. So now it's about spin control and it's about everybody hugging and saying kumbaya, and I don't really want to hear that now. I'm disgusted that it's escalated to this point.
Okay. Also, you're not too happy that we're a morning show. You're pretty much an evening guy.
Yeah, well, I adjust.
You did adjust, and you came to play.
I'm up. I'm in studio.
All right, because we got another block for you, all right? Is that okay, Nina, Bernard, and you, Stephen?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, straight ahead, a forum that was supposed to help promote President Obama's health care plan turns into a massive Tea Party protest instead.
We could have an opportunity to hear from those folks that are opposed to the health care reform or have some serious concerns with it.
We talked to the veteran who got a standing ovation for his comments. But first, the vice president no stranger to slips of the tongue.
My memory is not as good as Justice Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts. Does anyone?
Why does the White House think he's such a keeper? We'll ask our panel next. Vice President Joe Biden's unfortunate string of gaffes never seems to get old.
The truth is, we and everyone else misread the economy. I would tell members of my family, and I have, I wouldn't go anywhere in confined places now. My memory is not as good as Justice Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts. Stand up, Chuck. Let him see you. Oh, God love you. What am I talking about?
Chuck was in a wheelchair. The latest addition to this greatest hits, a condescending comment about Russia after a meeting. So why is the White House now calling him an asset? Do they have a choice? We're back with our political panel. First off, Nina, with the Washington bureau chief of Fortune magazine, do you think that Senator Joe Biden is helping? The Vice President Joe Biden is helping?
One of the characteristics of that entire string of gaffes is that he says things truth-telling, inappropriate, sort of a little bit too out there on the truth front, and I think that's what he was with Russia. I mean, if Dick Cheney had said this, you would have been applauding him. What did he say? He said that Russia is not a strategic equivalent of the United States, that in fact its economy and is withering, its population is withering. The White House had to come and walk that back because they want to reset relations with Russia, and that's not surprising. But it's Joe Biden is being Joe Biden.
So Joe Biden's telling the truth. So is Barack Obama lying, Stephen A?
It's not a matter of lying. The point is there's a difference between honesty and diplomacy depending on the position that you're in, and clearly Joe Biden doesn't know the difference. That's why he's the vice president as opposed to the president of the United States of America. With that being said, he was a senator for the better part of 3 decades. The man has relationships abroad. Obviously, internationally, they consider him to be an asset. You take those things into consideration, combine that with Barack Obama being known as smooth and eloquent and things of that nature. It's not something that should be made a big deal of. I applaud the vice president for being honest on the occasion that he has been.
Okay.
But at the same time, it's not always the wisest thing to do considering his situation.
Is it in America's interest to have Russia as our enemy? If it is not, then it is screaming headlines in Russia, Bernard, that Biden's latest gaffe, this is probably the most significant, shrinking population, withering economy, a banking system that won't last another 15 years. Is that why Barack Obama went there a couple of weeks ago?
I say thank God for Joe Biden. Because he told the truth, however indelicately. And the truth of the matter,
does it help America?
It absolutely does help America.
How?
Because you need good cop and bad cop in diplomacy. But one thing that's been lost in the conversation over Russia is the importance of Ukraine, its next-door neighbor. This is a key ally of the United States, and the democracy in Ukraine right now is threatened. And we need to do everything we can to promote the democratic forces in this country, lest we find that 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, Ukraine devolves into the fake democracy that currently exists in Russia.
And Nina, does this help get Russia's hands off of Ukraine?
I think what this does is speak to democratic forces and opposition forces in Russia. I mean, you can't completely embrace that regime and expect any kind of reform. I mean, this isn't a regime that we respect and want to move forward with. They also haven't been tremendous partners with us on Iran.
That's why you wanted to reset.
But also we have to pay attention to the fact that we also want to sort of build a relationship or rebuild a relationship with Russia to some degree, because we don't want them arming Iran. Iran obviously is an issue right now because they can give weapons to Iran. We don't want that. So it's not about making friends with them. It's about understanding that diplomacy may be the order of the day sometimes. If you have somebody within your administration who you believe is speaking out of turn and not giving the kind of message that you want articulated to the masses, that could be problematic.
But I think having Joe Biden bash Russia every now and again actually is going to help that cause.
Okay. Interesting.
I don't know about that.
A diverse set of opinions. Great panel. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much for getting up with us. Meanwhile, straight ahead.